heard that. Yeah.
This is the Pro Wrestling Reflection Podcast with your host, the Professor Chalbello Veracruz.
What a run!
Mr. Wonderful Tommy Wonder.
And I will take the powers of those that have no fear!
And the prodigal one, JB.
The queen, the cream of the crop.
Now it's time to go back in time in the time machine.
The American dream! Too sweet!
The living legend, Bruno Sammartino.
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass.
To be the man, you gotta beat the man. Woo! Look at this. I don't believe it.
You are getting 23-hour lockdowns with no food, with no water, with no shower privileges, no conjugal visits, nothing. Unless TW wants to come in with a dress and a wig and do something to you, Jimmy T. But anyway, neither here nor there, because, you know, he was already, like, going crazy with those Bangkok hookers last week. But again, another story for the day. But anyway, we are back. We're doing the episodics. We're up to episode 190. Donnie, I know you ain't gonna hear this until maybe 2026. But we're on 190. Where are you? You're still on 2022. You still haven't even hit 2020 plus. What is going on? I don't know, man. I mean, we're almost into 2020 Cinco, and Donnie Day 1 is still on 2022. It's a travesty. TW, it's a travesty. He's still on that same year. Certain things that happen. I don't know what, you know. Certain things that happen, TW. I mean, he must love this year. I don't know what we did in 2020 Deuce, TW. I mean, our shows must.
That's what it was. It's the shit. We called it 2020 Deuce.
Right. But that must have been the best shows we ever put out there on 2020 Deuce that makes Donnie Day 1 just stay on that year. You know how some people just say, you know what? A certain year is my year. I want it to always be that year. 2020 Deuce is the year of Donnie Day 1. But anyway, neither here nor there. So welcome to the PWR podcast here at the Harmony Media Group at Podbean.com. And welcome to episode 190. And I must introduce myself because I am vain like that. I must introduce myself because, again, I got to get rid of these grays underneath my chin and all that stuff. I got to get rid of the grays in the pubes. I got to get rid of the grays in the eardrums. But anyway, again, I am the oh-so-studious one. I am the oh-so-charismatic one. I am the oh-so-effervescent one. But most importantly, I am the oh-so-glorious one. The only objective man in this IWC, YWC, probationary PWC punditry. The only objective man. I'm on Donald Trump's, short list for some cabinet positions. Because when I edify the nation, I make waves. So I can edify the world. I can edify the Middle East. I can edify Hamas. I can edify Israel if so needed be. Because that is my duty to serve this country. The Professor Chabelle Cruz. But I'm not here alone. No. I am here with my brother from another mother. The conservative liberal. The liberal conservative. Dum-dum doer idiot son. The iron stomach one. Dr. Frickin' Stein. And he's wearing his Ultimate Warrior sweatshirt for all the audio reflection nights. And the undisputed, undeniable Detroit Rock City Universal Heavyweight Champion of the world. Damn, he's not even excited me when I do that. Yee! Tommy Wonder, how you doing, my friend? Oh, jeez. Again, I keep telling you, man, it's an audio podcast. Speak. The rule is to speak.
You probably wonder why I'm wearing this Warrior logo, but it's no secret, and I picked this one. I don't know what my phone's doing. I'm trying to do something that's going to be cool for all of us. But anyhow, that's be a great episode. 2.5 hours plus 8 more minutes. And sure I've complained about the Peacock on here before. I used to get Peacock for free on my Xfinity account, but they let me pay the extra $5 to have no commercials. They don't let you do that anymore. I have to cancel the free one and then pay $14 to get no commercials. So I tell them, pick one, suck it. Problem is, other than live shit, everything I watch, it's a fucking 60 commercial, 90-second commercial, and you can't skip them. And it's bullocks.
Mm-hmm.
I did. I made it through. I fell asleep. I did watch a little bit of everything. It was very entertaining. And it did. This is 2001.
I haven't even told the Reflection Nights what we're doing. You're just going into the show.
No, but I'm saying it's 2001.
Yes, it is 2001.
I didn't even see what the show was yet.
I haven't even said the Reflection Nights. What pay-per-view we even going to be talking about? I just asked you how you was doing.
The usual. You're going to ask me if I fell asleep. I did.
Of course.
It's long as shit. So I was falling asleep regardless. But it was entertaining. Mm-hmm. And it made me realize in 2001, I was still going. I had another... This was early 2001, early to mid.
Hold that for a second. By the way, Reflection Nights, since for logistical purposes and for the flow of the show, because people are like, what is TW talking about? What is TW talking about in 2001 besides 9/11 that everybody can remember? We are going back to December of 2001, where we're going to be talking about WWE Vengeance from San Diego.
What month?
December 2001.
Oh, so this is after 9/11.
Yes, it is.
Oh. Damn. You know what? I told you it was in December or something. You told me it was after WrestleMania, which technically it is.
No. See, Reflection Nights again. TW always tries to be right. We were both wrong. But first and foremost, we were both wrong because we didn't know the name of the pay-per-view.
Right.
I was talking about Bad Blood. We were talking about Armageddon. Actually, it's technically we were both right about Armageddon. We heard the name of Armageddon was for this particular month, but because of 9/11, TW, they took away Armageddon because again, WWE, they were trying to be politically correct and
we were being sensitive to the state of the world.
Well, that was, remember those cancel culture people were in their infancy stages. They were like the PC babies from South Park, so they were wang. But they didn't know why they were wang. So they just changed it to Vengeance. But anyway, neither here nor there. But for 2001 purposes, TW, yes, it is a couple of months after 9/11, all that stuff. What's funny, TW, again, before we even talk about the show, I like to get a little bit personal with you, TW, because again, this is 2001. This is the cusp of TW's, Midwest tours. He's going through those ring rats. He's got one in Detroit. He's got one in Wisconsin. He's got one in Ohio and all that stuff. Again, neither here nor there for the ex-wife and all that stuff. Again, I protect you, TW. I'm on your side for all the child support payments. But anyway, neither here nor there. But TW, in that nestle, in that crust, this is your prime. This is where you're going everywhere which way on the weekends and doing what you're doing. But besides that point, I would ask you a two-part question because, again, in 2001, in the early parts of 2001, before 9/11, WCW went out of business, ECW went out of business, and I don't know, how was the pulse of indie wrestling after those, the two biggest flagships of North America went out of business, knowing that WWE was the only show in town? How did that affect you and your booking acumen during that 2001 period? Considering we're in this December part one, and part two is like, did the hot dog and a handshake get a little bit more? Did it go up or did it go down because of the business end of it?
Down. So first of all, I wasn't in my peak. This is 2001. I remember now because of 9/11. That's when they turned me good guy. I went back from being Calavera Cortez. I went back to being Tommy Wonder. Because they made me the Lex Luger, Jim Duggan, Hulk Hogan of Michigan Indies because of 9/11. But I wasn't wrestling out of state anymore because I had taken the job delivering furniture in 99.
Okay.
So I couldn't wrestle out of state on Saturdays because I didn't know what time I was getting done. So I was wrestling mostly local. And you still had the local, staples. Like there were 2 or 3 local wrestling spread out, like north of Detroit, south of Detroit, west of Detroit, but all using the same guys. And the crowds were just smaller than shit. Like, it was just dying. However, this was right around the time CM Punk is coming around just after this, like through the Michigan Indies, where it kind of picked back up a little bit and more younger groups started. But the problem
that would be the CM Punk, Seth Rollins tree of people, and of course AJ Styles was doing what he was doing too.
Which Seth Rollins was trained by Travis's old partner Danny Daniels, or Devin Daniels, but they made him Danny Daniels in ECW because of Devin Storm. But the hard part is when you had a WCW, when you had an AWA, when you had an ECW, and you had a WWF, when you brought in a name, it came for a little bit less money because there was so much competition for it, right? Like, we can get an AWA name, we can get an ECW name, we can get a WCW name, we can get a WWE name, because they had The Rock in Canada, they had Edge in Canada, they had D'Lo in Canada when they were WWE guys, because they would let them take bookings like that, like very rarely, but they would let them. Because Scott kind of had a good grace with WWE even way back then before he even did Impact. But most of the guys would be your guys who were in between going from one to the other. And I just remember in 98, or not 98, but 2000, 2001, 2002, there weren't that many names being brought in because now these dudes got to do it for a living. And like the pipeline was smaller because of less options. That's what you're trying to say. Less options, but these guys had to do it for a living. So it wasn't like they were wrestling for WCW and then did it for side money to sell merch and autographs. Because these guys would make tons of money on Polaroids, just sitting in the ring and everybody lines up to get in the ring and take a picture with them. Okay. But Cody Rhodes just did a podcast with Flagrant, whatever, the Andrew Schultz podcast. And he was talking about how when he left, he would wrestle for 150, 250, because that's what guys wrestled for when I first started. You would bring in, Hawk came in, Hawk was different. Hawk he told me he would normally make $1,000 a shot, right? But if you brought him in for 2 or 3, he would drop a couple hundred to where he ended up making $1,500 for a triple shot, which is weird because if you do a triple shot, you'd almost want a little bit more because now that's what it was.
Maybe the flight was on them. Maybe the hotel was on them, but he said he'll take the reduced money payout.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. I think he might have told me he made $750 a show, but he charged $500 if you booked him for 3 shows, because he would make $1,400 for 2 or $1,500 for 3. But he also saved you on trans because you only had a flight in and out, but you got him for 3 days. He would have a room unless he knew somebody to stay with them, that kind of stuff.
But you're saying that 2001, that kind of manipulation was a little bit harder with just only WWE in town.
Or because you got all these guys that aren't wrestling because they're not in WWE, so you could bring in anybody for less money, but these guys would price themselves out of it because you'd see Honky Tonk Man, you'd see Greg the Hammer Valentine, you'd see all the same guys because they didn't charge $1,000, they charged $250 or $350, whatever, trans in a hotel. And a lot of these guys knew Mickey Doyle or somebody like Ricky and Robert knew Mickey, Greg knew Mickey. Al obviously knew Al Snow knew Mickey. These guys would come in, they'd get trans in a hotel, but then they'd stay with Mickey, so they would circumvent the money that way. But there wasn't a lot of money. People were broke. September 11th changed a lot of shit, man. So, but it was just different. It wasn't good. It was not good. And it's funny because I'm thinking back now, like I don't even know how WWE was doing in 2001, 2002. But one cool thing is when I was watching this, I didn't realize I thought it was before 9/11. 9/11 never even crossed my mind. But I'm thinking it's February, January because of the conversation you and I had. I didn't even realize it ended up really being in December because that's what I told you, that it was in December. I knew that much. But then you taught myself how to believe in that. But for it to be after 9/11, it's in San Diego, I think is where they're at. But they have Rikishi in New York at WWE New York. But I don't think they ever even mentioned 9/11. They just celebrated New York,
Yeah.
But
Well, it's a couple of months after the fact, and they're trying to like get
get back to
the
normal.
spirit, try to get back to some normalcy and try to get the spirits back of everything. And of course, entertainment is a great escapism, Reflectionites. But with that being said, TW, there's one caveat of Vengeance 2001. This is the TW pick, Reflectionites, because again, like I keep saying, this is not a patriarchy. I'm not Christian Cage. I do not own all this stuff. I take requests from everybody. I take requests from Donnie Day One. I take requests from TN Couponer, Christopher Paul Bruce Winland. I take requests from Greenpeace. I take requests from Jeff Lipton. I take requests from Big Ray, JB, even TW himself, even though TW is low on the totem pole, but he gets his request in and all that stuff. This is a TW pick and all that stuff. But TW, Vengeance 2001 is also prevalent in another thing for professional wrestling purposes. Not about the business, but again, of the histrionics, if you will, TW. What are you reading? Are you reading the Playboy letter?
I'm reading the response from Ray from what I asked him.
Oh, okay.
You're gonna like
again.
I'm not making noise.
I'm looking at you. I'm waiting either for fireworks, and then you're looking like, see, this is the problem with videos. No, don't do that. Stop it. Jesus Christ, again with the fireworks. But again, neither here nor there. But the histrionics, TW, of Vengeance 2001 is prevalent too in professional wrestling history because this is when Vince McMahon totally and unequivocally, Reflectionites, killed WCW with this pay-per-view because he wanted to unify the two most prestigious titles left in 2001 purposes. The two most prestigious and historic titles, and that would be the WWF title and the WCW title, with a little bit of entrails of NWA, even though NWA said, no way, we got nothing to do with that belt. This is NWA still is going on till this day. Billy Corgan will say differently. TNA will say differently. But again, TW, we have to at least acknowledge that it is an NWA WCW histrionics, if you will. But for Vince McMahon's purposes, his ego and all this stuff, and this is the unequivocal way of Vince McMahon saying, I won, I rule professional wrestling, even though he doesn't really like that word. I rule wrestling. I will call it sports entertainment until the day I die. He wanted to merge those titles, unify those titles. So what say you, TW, about that? Not about the match. I'm just talking about just the histrionics purposes of wrestling, because that changed the game. Because now the WWF title is the most prestigious title in North America at this time. Of course, I'm not talking about New Japan. New Japan has its own history. AAA in Mexico has its own history. CMLL has its own history and all that stuff. After the fact, we know that TNA is coming up. We know that, AEW, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, Ring of Honor are coming up, and they're starting to build a legacy. But this was Vince McMahon, jacking off to his own, like, I won and all that stuff. This is proof positive that he won everything. He owns wrestling. So what say you, TW? As a fan, as a wrestler in the business yourself, Vince McMahon glorifying himself in this light. You liked it? You didn't like it? You had a different take on it? What say you?
I like it because I think I hate that it's not that now. And this, obviously there's been a bunch of people since, and we couldn't even name who all they are. Maybe Brock, no, Roman's the last to do it. But Chris Jericho will forever be the guy who unified the legit WCW world title with the WWF world title. I think they only called it the world title. They didn't call it WCW.
The undisputed world championship after the fact.
Right. But I don't think it was killing WCW. I think it was the only problem with it is the night starts off with Austin as the WWE champ and Rock as the WCW champ. I would have liked it better. I like what they do, the four guys and like a mini tournament.
We'll get into that Reflection Nights in a couple of minutes.
I would have preferred it to be like, tell me this. The last Nitro, Booker T was the world champion when it ended, right?
Yeah, he won the title. He was the last legit.
How the hell did Rock have it if Booker T was never there?
You want to answer that question?
Yeah.
logistically, they brought the WCW title in for the invasion angle.
Right.
So Rock defeated Booker T, I think at SummerSlam 2001 to become the WCW
he was there,
champion.
but he wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
Got you. Okay. That makes sense, because it's confusing to me when we see him on this show that they know who he is. Because typical WWE, if it's the first time they see somebody,
I'll get into the logistics, but I'm just asking you as a fan, as a historian.
The one thing I would do different is I would have Austin Rock be the WWE side, and then I don't mind Jericho being the WCW side, but I would have had Jericho, Booker T. But the way they booked this, they booked it intentionally that everyone thought for sure it's Austin versus Rock, right? And if you were betting money, you absolutely bet that Chris Jericho was the one guy not winning, right? The other three all had a legit chance. And so when you started off the way you do, which we'll get to, it's cementing what they know the people thought was going to be the end. And it's a swerve all the way around. They did everything right. But I believe unifying the title was the right thing to do. And keeping the U.S. title and the IC titles was all. I think they merged them at one point too, didn't they?
They tried to do that.
U.S. and European or something.
No. Actually, they kept the U.S. and then they tried to disavow the Intercontinental title for some strange reason during the 2000s. But again,
because I think that is
But that was the wrong move, because the fans really said no. We didn't want
title is everyone's favorite belt, if you're being honest, right?
Yeah.
Well, maybe not anymore, but back then. But what I'm saying is, it's a bit of good faith that you're not just killing all the WCW titles, right? What they could have done if you wanted to merge U.S. and Intercontinental and call it the North American Championship, whatever, you could have then brought in the TV title as the third title instead of the European. You know what I mean? So you still have the World Television Championship. But
Arn Anderson came with the package. So if you wanted to bring the TV title, you got Arn Anderson there. You could have brought that both. But anyway, neither here nor there. But let me ask you this question, TW.
Arn was not there.
Yes, he was.
He wrestled.
No, he became a road agent once the merge happened. He got a job after that, and he was
wrestling. I mean, if they were going to bring in the TV champion of greatest of all time to wrestle, it would have been Tully. But he was already being a preacher by then.
Again, we're not going to go back and forth reflection. See, everybody knows that I won that debate. But again, you go back into the archives. But again, let me ask you this, TW, because this is hindsight. Because we already know the reason I asked you this question is because we already know in hindsight.
Chop down a tree.
That too. But I've got to ask you this because of what they did. But we know in hindsight, they've unified the titles like 4 or 5 times in the last 20 years.
Right.
The Universal title, the Smack, and the Raw title, and then all this stuff. And now we're in 2025, Reflection Nights, and we got the World Heavyweight title and the undisputed WWE title. The WWE lineage is still intact, but that World Heavyweight title gets a little bit shaky and all that stuff. And again, even with the Vengeance unification, TW, the Ric Flair belt actually came months later when they did the brand split, the first legit brand split between Raw and SmackDown. So this is a different question. If they kept, and I'm talking about booking wise, if they kept what Chris Jericho, the result of Chris Jericho becoming like you said, the first legitimate unified world heavyweight champion, and we're already in 2025. This is almost like a what if question, TW. If they kept it with that principle that the unified champion goes to Raw, goes to SmackDown, and then years later goes to NXT defending his unified belt, would that have made better booking sense? Would that have been better television? Would that have been better entertainment purposes for you and me as the consumer? What say you, TW, about that what if?
Not only would it have made better everything, I think once they do go to Netflix, that's what we're going to have. Because everybody wants Cody, everybody wants Roman, everybody wants Punk, right? But they can only be on one show. Well, unfortunately, it'll probably turn into a hot potato belt. But what you can do is you can have Roman SmackDown, Punk on Raw, and Cody as the champion, and then one of them win it, and then you can put Cody wherever you want, and then the champion will be on both, and then the other one can win it, and then that one goes to SmackDown. It's a good, easy way to have people on both shows, and it's a good way to have a cheap, quick way to move somebody from Raw to SmackDown and vice versa. So someone's not. Me personally, I hate the brand split. I've hated it all along. I think it waters it down. You can do what the intent is by just not having people on TV every week. It would, if you got two shows, you could have them. We've talked about this before. Punk can be on Raw this week, but not SmackDown. The next week, not be on Raw, then be on SmackDown. He's still working every week, but he's not being oversaturated, right? And it's a good way to get guys.
But that would only work if Punk is a unified champion. That's the question that entails.
No. I'm saying if you don't have a brand split.
Oh, okay.
The whole reason of the brand split is the top guys are taking up all the time. Like, for example, I think Thunder in the end became like Rampage, if we're being honest. It wasn't like the show that all the cool shit happened on. It was in the beginning when they first made it, but then it just kind of became the afterthought, right? Nitro was still your bread and butter. So what happened is the NWO would dominate Nitro, and then Thunder would start off where Nitro left off. So it would just be NWO every fucking show. So the split was so that this show featured these 20 guys and this show featured these 20 guys. But there's still fucking 20 guys arguing for 2 hours at a time, and you're only seeing them once a week. So if you do no brand split, you have one world champion, one secondary champion, one card jerking, whatever, whether it be a curtain jerker, whether it be a cruiserweight or a TV title, you have that, and then you have the tag belts. I'll tell you what I don't understand. How does NXT, they just added the North American Women's Championship to NXT, but how does NXT not have a tag team champion? There are more women on NXT than all the other promotions combined. More than AEW, more than Raw, SmackDown.
Jade and Bianca are supposed to go down to NXT and defend those belts, but they're not doing that.
No, but they went months with no tag team belts there. And I just saw, I don't know if it was a dream or if it was real, they just made the women's Intercontinental title or women's U.S. title.
The women's U.S. title. Right. But we don't know if that's a brand-oriented belt or that's going to be a brand-fluid belt.
My personal belief is all champions should be on both shows. It should be cross-pollinated, because then because here's the problem with the brand split. We saw we saw Randy versus Austin or Cena 172 fucking times, because they were either both on SmackDown or they were both on Raw. Even when you separated, somehow they came back together. It's just, it breeds repetitiveness. Whereas if you have everybody on every show, like, when's the last time you saw Nakamura? And then you can finally bring him back and he's fresh again because he was away for a while. But these guys, and keep NXT separate, send guys down there to get them a fresh coat of paint. But I think SmackDown and Raw, especially when it goes to Netflix, I think everybody should be on both shows, and I think there should be one champion that crosses both ways.
The biggest quandary for Vince McMahon was ratings. Biggest quandary was to have the top talent, the top tiers on both shows for at least good ratings. So again, I'm not defending Vince, but again, we understand why the unification, even after Vengeance, didn't mean shit, because he had to change the game. He had to adapt to a different model, and that's the brand split. You have to adapt to a different model by redoing the unification angle over and over again. And we have to do let's say the John Cena, Randy Orton, either on Raw or SmackDown multiple times, because it just has to be fluid into that. So I guess you're kind of going with my point is like this unification, even though it's a WCW belt, even though that lineage did mean something for this pay-per-view purpose, it meant something, but it just doesn't mean dick, because after 20 years, what they did just warded that.
Right. That unified title is like two other titles are wrapped up in it. Besides,
right.
The Universal title and now this new world title that's brand new and it's only had 3 champions or whatever the fuck it is. 4 up. Can't hear you. There you go. Well, no, you hit something. I heard a crack, and then your dollar store earbuds stopped working. Who the fuck still has wired earbuds?
It's 99 cents.
Plus tax. Take them off. Just do it without the
Help it.
I can hear you now.
Okay. I had to hit something so you can hear me.
It went shh, and then you cut out.
Well, as long as you can hear me now, that's all that matters. So, Joe Biden is trying to, fuck with us for the last time. But with Donald Trump coming in 2025.
That guy gave a great speech last week, and if he'd have been like that all along, they wouldn't have did him dirty.
You know why? He had time. He did his homework. So,
He took a long-ass nap for 4 months, and then he came running out on the stage and everything. I think he even exited the right way.
Joe Biden did what you said about Nakamura. He came in fresh, and you haven't seen him in a while. So it is what it is. But anyway, let's get into the meat and crust of this Vengeance 2001 and Reflection Nights. We're not going match by match because it doesn't. Some matches didn't mean squat to the professor. Some matches didn't mean squat to TW. But TW might talk about them, might talk about the nuance and the psychology of some things. But TW, the crust of Vengeance 2001 is to try to fill in the holes of the invasion angle, TW. Because remember, Survivor Series already happened. WWE won the war, with the winner take all shit at Survivor Series. So with that being said, Vince McMahon was going to strip the title from Steve Austin because he was the WWF champion, but he betrayed WWF and went to the side of the alliance and all that stuff. So they lost that winner take all, and Vince McMahon, with supposedly all the power, he was supposed to strip him and then anoint Kurt Angle the new WWF champion. But there was a pickle in that. The consortium was the Nature Boy Ric Flair, and he bought out the stocks of Shane and Stephanie McMahon. And Ric Flair said, hell no, Steve Austin is still recognized as the WWF champion. But Ric Flair made the twist. He said we needed an undisputed heavyweight champion, and he recognized The Rock as the WCW champion. So that's why Vengeance 2001 took place, TW. So I'm trying to get those plot holes, try to fill in those plot holes. And that's
fill them holes like you get your holes filled through the DMs. Got it.
No, that's your holes. Well, again, I got the DMs. He's the one in hotels with men, not me. But anyway, neither here nor there. And Big Ray could attest to what you do on the bed. So that's all I'm just saying. But let's get into this TW, because again, one of the matches that intrigued the professor, because I even forgot this, because I remember this in 2008, and I thought that match was underwhelming, but I forgot that the Hardys fought each other, brother versus brother. And I forgot about this because, again, this is 2001, and probably like 6 months down the line, because I remember this after the fact, TW, that Matt Hardy was reinventing himself, and Mattitude and Matt Hardy 2.0 and all that stuff. The funny shit that he did for SmackDown purposes, Pop the Professor and all that stuff. And I remember Shannon Moore being his underling and all that stuff. But again, that's neither here nor there. But let's talk about brother versus brother, TW. This is, again, another example of Vince McMahon hating tag team wrestling. Vince McMahon using a cheap angle to break up the Hardys, who just a couple of months ago, WrestleMania 17 had one of the greatest matches still in infamy, TLC 2, where people remember that forever because of what Edge did to Jeff Hardy on that goddamn ladder with a spear and all that stuff, TW. Your guys were there. Rhino was there. Edge and Christian were there and all that stuff in front at the Houston Astrodome. But again, neither here nor there. But now we're in December, and Vince McMahon says, you know what? Let's break up the Hardys. Let's have this cheap filler kind of a storyline and all that shit. And then you add Lita to the plot, if you will, Reflection Nights. She is the special guest referee, and they push that fact that Matt Hardy and Lita are dating and all that stuff. So what say you, TW, about this? Because, again, I forgot the Hardys fought each other in 2001. I just thought they kind of like split because of the brand split. But again, Matt Hardy's, heelish cadences kind of like popped in the SmackDown side. But I forgot that Jeff Hardy, you and I know that we see Jeff Hardy as a bigger fucking deal than Matt Hardy. We knew that. He's the Shawn. Matt is the Marty. Again, you don't want to be pegged that, but it is what it is. So, TW, what say you about this intriguing brother versus brother match?
I forgot it happened too. I forgot a lot of this stuff happened. I forgot Kane and Big Show were a team and fought the Dudleys. I didn't know the Undertaker fought RVD. This is such a bizarre world for me. I'm absolutely certain I'd never seen it before. But what I like about the Hardys thing is it's kind of somewhere in between the Orndorff turn. No, okay, Sean turning on Marty turn, but the Brett and Jim Neidhart, where no one really turned on it, just kind of went away, but they came back to it because it was friendly. This one it wasn't really a turn, it was sibling rivalry. They were just arguing, they were frustrated, arguing with each other, and then wrestled each other in a otherwise scientific match. That's what they used to call those matches back in the day, boys and girls. When baby faces wrestled baby faces. But obviously they were setting up a turn to Mattitude and all that. Also, 4 years before it happened, setting up Matt sending Lita Edge's way, because this is where it starts. But it was an underwhelming match. I feel like that crowd sucked too for everything, not just this match. I don't think they popped for it, but what it did do is the finish was Matt went to do the MFer or whatever the hell he calls that move with Jeff on the top rope, but second rope, but you know what I mean, sitting like you would for a superplex, and he takes the bump. Matt hits the senton, or Jeff, and when he pins him, Matt puts his leg on the rope. Lita doesn't see it because she's muff diving for the 3 count, but Jeff hooks the leg, so it ruins the whole angle because she wasn't going to see it anyway, so there was no reason to hook the leg. So, but by hooking the leg, to me, it's a legit win because he had his foot on the rope and then he hooked it. So you're saying that Lita kind of missed her cue to like look or have the angle where it looked like she didn't see. Stayed on the rope if you're going to blame her for not seeing it, because she didn't see it when she made the 1. But if she would have looked up for the 2, Jeff had already hooked it, so it's no longer on the thing. You know what I mean? So if anything, it made Jeff look good, and it made Matt look bad. Like you don't know that your leg's off the rope now because he's holding it. So he should have kicked out instead of relying on the leg on the rope, because it's not an instant break. It's only a break if the referee sees it. That's true. But again, you and I kind of agree this is kind of underwhelming because, again, you break up the Hardys after what they've done earlier in 2001 and having built a legacy of, one of the greatest WWF tag teams, at that time and all that stuff. They're still going today. And they're still going today. Again, we don't know the mind of Vince McMahon because he just changes his mind so many goddamn times. But he just felt that it was the moment. Again, you and I kind of agree. Jeff Hardy is the Shawn and Matt is the Marty. But we know that. But again, it felt too soon. It felt too rushed. That's just the way I felt because, again, you go from that to a question for you. What's that? If that WrestleMania, which is 9 months ago, is that match, how is it Christian's teaming with Test now and Edge is wrestling in singles matches? Again, I guess you know what it is that microwave fandom moment because we just go to the next storyline. Edge is IC champ, I think, on here. Yes, he is. And Christian's European champ. Either he is or he's challenging for it. I forget. No, he teamed with Test and he came to the ring with the belt. Oh, and then the Dudleys defend the tag belts against Big Show and Kane. And it's like, this is bizarre world. I would have thought this was years after TLC. No. So Dudleys unequivocally won that feud if they won TLC too. Yeah, but let's put a bow on this Jeff and Matt Hardy match because, again, why you had to show your gut? Because I was looking to see if I had a T-shirt on this because I'm sweating balls. Jesus Christ! But anyway, let's put a bow on this because TW, again, this is hindsight because we know the Hardys are still tag teaming to this day in 2020, Cinco and all that stuff. The legacy is there. They're one of the top 10 tag teams of all time with their pedigree and their legacy. So, in hindsight, was this match needed? Was this worth it? Or we can never see a Jeff and Matt Hardy match.
one-on-one without no purpose because they tried twice.
That's the problem. Like this.
Well, no, let me rephrase that reflection because then they'll say, Professor, at least the TNA deletion matches between Jeff and Matt Hardy were actually more entertaining. I want to retract that, TW. Those matches are entertaining. Those matches meant something, but both of them had characters. Where I'm talking about the WWE underwhelming matches where both of them have limited characters. What say you, TW?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like this almost falls under the Hogan versus Flair at house shows instead of WrestleMania. It's absolutely wasted. It almost comes across as a filler match, and so does Test and Christian. Versus, if anything, Christian's the European champion. Edge is the Intercontinental champion. Forget Test, God rest his soul. Why? Forget Steven Regal. Have Test wrestle Steven Regal, and have one of the Hardys challenge Christian for that belt, and have the other Hardy challenge Edge for that belt. So then it's continuing the TLC feud, right? You could have done that here. Instead, you got it like none of them were ever attached to each other at all. It felt like filler. All of them. Every single one. Edge's match felt like filler, although it was good to see Regal get some kind of a push. And I don't even remember. Did they wrestle? Yeah, they wrestled Albert and Scotty 2 Hotty, and Christian got pinned. So it's like
that was a match I didn't really want to talk about. That's
my point. It's filler and throwaway when you could have had Edge and Christian versus the Hardys. Like vengeance. Vengeance sounds like heat, feud, blood feud. Edge, Christian are both on the show, not with each other, and then the Hardys are wrestling each other, and it's much ado about nothing. There's nothing to it other than you tried to run my life for me. I'm smarter than you. It was a watered down Bret Owen feud.
This showed the faux pas of Vince McMahon because again he had filler pay-per-views. He tried to make Royal Rumble feel big. He tried to make WrestleMania always feel big, and Survivor Series and SummerSlam, yada, yada, yada. The big four always felt big. But these are filler pay-per-views no matter what, TW. We cannot change that fact.
I wouldn't say filler. I'd say cash grabs.
Well, the only thing that made it interesting for a fan like you and I was the unification. But you have to get there. You have to work your way to get there. So it is what it is. So with that being said, you talked about one of the matches that I kind of want to talk about, and that was Edge being the Intercontinental Champion going into this match, defending his title against William Regal. And it's not about the match, TW. I just want to, give respect and give the flowers to Edge because, again, Vince McMahon sees something at Edge. You already have history with Edge and all your Border City Wrestling, all that stuff in Canada.
I actually just found a bunch of pictures of me, Edge, Christian, and Joey Legend. I didn't even know I had. They were in a box that I thought was all Kindle paper, to burn for a fire. And I'm like, oh, look at this. Look at this.
Yeah. Put it on the cloud and all that. Yeah. So Vince McMahon, again, Edge has that it factor, but also he has that Tiger Pete, panty dropping looks and all that stuff. But he has to build up his street cred, if you will, Reflectionites. Right. But William Regal is the perfect, adversary for Edge. He's a young up-and-coming star. Regal is that grizzled veteran and all that stuff. So, TW, what say you about this match? Because, again,
those guys are setting the world on fire, aren't they? The grizzled young vets. Good stuff. Good decisions. Go ahead.
Jesus Christ. You always want to have a zinger for AEW in every show.
Why is that AEW? They're not. They were there once.
Yeah, that's it. But
they're in UK Indies right now.
They sucked in they sucked in NXT. So we have to call.
They were good when they were the Dion or whatever the hell that was called.
No, they weren't. They were actually worse.
They looked like NWO, Beefcake, and Hogan.
That's not even a compliment. That's actually more of a
Here's the AEW zinger.
Okay.
This man has some splaining to do, Lucy, because it says right here, Darby Allin, wrestling superstar. So he can take his fucking bony ass. His skateboard's bigger than him. I think the wrestling term superstar is stupid. Well, I agree, because here's a wrestling superstar right here.
Can we go back to the? Can we go back to the show? Let's talk about Edge. Let's talk about your man Edge. Let's talk about William Regal. Let's talk about this match. It served its purpose because you're trying to give Edge street cred. You're trying to give him the rub. What's the ATW about this match?
I forget how it ended. I think Regal tried hitting him with brass knuckles or something, and then Edge rolled him up.
Mm-hmm.
You know this. I love matches where guys win out of nowhere. Another match we're not going to talk about. Trish Stratus rolls Jackie up out of nowhere with a backslide. Those are matches that feel special when they end. I'm not saying either match was special. I'm saying Steamboat rolling up Macho Man in a small package from a body slam is the greatest finish to the greatest match of all time. So, they even call when Austin hits a stunner on Angle, they called it he hit his finisher. Like to me, that's one of the worst things that happened in wrestling ever. Like, it was better when we were kids, and you knew that when Tito did the flying burrito, it was usually over. But it wasn't always. So when they start calling them finishing maneuvers, that's when you run into the stupid 700 super kicks and everybody's finish, and then they win with a fucking back elbow, like on AEW. But the point is, this Edge and Regal match, it was booked to make it look like the deck was stacked against Edge, even though he was champion, because he's wrestling this veteran who's traveled the world, and he won by avoiding the brass knuckles, and I think he rolled him up. I can't remember how he pinned him. He didn't hit him with the head of the spear.
Actually, he kind of reversed it and then hit the spear and then won.
Yeah.
But Regal dominated the match.
Yes,
with nice,
which is the old rule. You can go back and watch a lot of wrestling videos. If you don't know who's going to win, the guy that's getting his ass kicked for 75% of it is going to win 99% of the time, unless it's a squash.
Mm-hmm.
That's the trick. I'm going to look good beating your ass. You're going to look good catching me and pinning me out of nowhere.
It's funny, TW, because I think about you, and I didn't know what Diddy weigh, but I think about you when I saw this pay-per-view, because, again, when I'm seeing Edge, make it to the big time here, and Christian, they're doing their matches, and I'm thinking about, TW should be, you should have been one of those guys, the center for flash photography, like lackeys or something. You should have had one of those call-ups for that.
That's on me. That's on me. Edge on a regular basis, and I'm gonna tell you he was there already, but I could have been that. He asked me 172 times every time he saw me, give me a tape so I can send it to these guys in Winnipeg. I didn't. Rhino did, and I think those three are attached at the hip. Like when if there would have been a perfect world, three of them would have got introduced to the Hall of Fame together, all three of them. But politics ruined that, right? But hindsight, I wish I'd have gave him the tape, right? And I wish I'd have went to Winnipeg, and because I probably would have been one of the guys, because they brought Swinger around when they could. They brought, this guy El Diablo around when they could. So yeah, and I think him and I had a really good. It was more than an acquaintanceship. Christian and I were friendly. Edge and I were friends, is what I would say. Much like D'Lo, and I said it was good to see D'Lo last month at that MLP show. Because it solidifies that, I think D'Lo feels the same way, right? Not because they made it. Not because they made it. It's because you spend so much time being happy for your buddies. It kind of sucks to think they didn't think of you as a buddy. But like I said, I got the chance over the years to see both of those guys after they made it. And both of them have been nothing but gracious to me. So, yeah, it's cool to see someone I, care about and respect make it. And I still feel the same way for Christian. I texted him the second he beat Randy Orton for the world title, and he responded back. It was awesome for everybody involved. Everybody that ever crossed paths when we were all just trying to steal the indie show, and then they ended up going up and stealing the show. Christian's the best thing about it.
You didn't text Christian when he won the briefcase for the AEW contract?
I didn't even know he did.
He did. You should.
Is he still TNT champ?
No, he's not.
Oh, he's not?
No.
Oh, yeah, Edge won that from him, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
That was a long... Yeah.
He looks like... Yeah. I look at Christian now, I don't see Christian. I see... who's that Satan guy? James something Matthews or whatever the hell.
I have no idea.
The guy from WCW. He was like the modern Kevin Sullivan.
Oh, yeah. I forgot his... Yeah.
James something.
Father James Mitchell.
Father James Mitchell. But Also, Jonathan Lipton, whatever, the inside the actor studio guy that interviewed people. He looks like that to me. But it's a good look because father figure is what he is.
All I'm saying is you gotta make up for your calls. Christian won the AEW contract. But anyway, neither here nor there. Let's get into this Vengeance 2001 card, TW. And I think another match that caught you kind of talked about it a little bit, but I want to talk about a different match because I'm the ECW kind of mark that I've always am. The Undertaker is challenging RVD, Mr. Monday Night, Mr. Pay-Per-View, Rob Van Dam for the ugliest title in wrestling history, the WWE.
The prettiest title that they ruined.
That too, but the ugliest title in 2001, the WWE Hardcore Championship. And again, TW, for me being the ECW mark that I am, I always go into these, when I went into these matches in 2001, knowing that ECW is over and dead, I always said this, just make them look good and all that stuff. You know what I mean? Just book them at least decent. And, I remember Taz getting his ass beat by Triple H on the SmackDown and all that stuff. I'm like, oh, this ain't working. But again, the Dudleys, they had, they held their own, and they, and when Bubba Ray Dudley got, orgasm by going through the tables on women, I was like, okay, that's some funny shit. RVD winning that hardcore title, I was like, okay, that's cool. This is just the stepping stone to the Intercontinental title, which became, came to fruition. And of course, I said this is a stepping stone before he becomes the WWE champion, which he did years later and all that stuff. That's all I ever say. Just make him look good. So what say you, TW, about RVD against The Undertaker? Again, this match for me, it's not, by the way, Undertaker wins. But this match is so important for one reason and one reason only. You got to gain the respect of the locker room leader. You got to have a great match with Undertaker, so Undertaker will give you that look. Like, all right, kid, I can take you. I respect you. I respect what you offer. I respect what you bring to the table and all that stuff. What is that? Fuck. I can't see. Ordered place, thanks. What did you order? RVD stuff?
RVD figure.
Oh, cool.
Because I didn't like it because he had a shirt on.
Okay.
But beggars can't be choosers. My other RVD figure's up there. He's in the tiger with the yin yang.
What's saying about this match?
Full disclosure.
Okay.
I fast forwarded the fuck out of this match, like all of them, because I learned that from training.
Well, it's a hardcore championship match. Right. Everything it's ECW style.
But this is my favorite match on the card because, for one, I did not know The Undertaker ever. I did not do that on purpose. I did not know he was ever the hardcore champion. Not at all.
Okay.
So that kind of puts some shit in the pipe of the people that said that was a jobber belt, right? 24/7 belt was a fucking jobber belt. That hardcore title, off and on, had some prestige, right? But I loved, if you watch this match and you see RVD got to be RVD versus the fucking Undertaker, right? Albeit the American Badass or the Dead Man, whatever he's calling himself at this point, right? The biker one. But if you, especially you as an ECW fan, you have to be over the moon to see not only RVD versus the Undertaker, but in a competitive match. Because if you would have pictured the Undertaker that did all this shit and fought Hogan and Warrior and Jake the Snake and all these guys, RVD would have been a squash, right? Like that version of the Undertaker. But we got a competitive match. I'm not saying it is as good as it, but we got Shawn versus Undertaker, right? And Undertaker was the Dead Man again when Shawn was in those matches, plus the earlier ones, right? But this match did another thing for me.
What did it do?
This might blow you away or confuse you, one or the other.
Okay.
But it made me comfortable with something that I've always... It started out as a thought of, man, 2001, fucking Warrior could have been around here. But then it dawned on me when I saw The Undertaker. The only way the Warrior works in 2001 is if he did the same fucking thing The Undertaker did, which is become something else, right? And then there goes this mystique of the Warrior. I think the Warrior in 2024 lives today because he was always that Ultimate Warrior, right? From the Dingo Warrior to the, Blade Runners to all the way to being the Ultimate Warrior, which I think is, I thought it was the dumbest fucking name when they first, I'm like, that's a fucking Dingo Warrior. And then when I got older and smarter, I realized fucking Dingo is dumb, right? But
yes,
the Ultimate Warrior means the last warrior. I always thought the gimmick was he was a futuristic Indian, Native American, but at the time they called him Indian. His boots were like Tatanka. He was like a modern day space cowboy Indian. But if he would have still been around, I don't think he's on my arm as a tattoo or on my chest as a shirt. So watching this match and knowing that's probably what the Warrior would have had to do, I'm at peace with him being gone and his career being the short window that it was, because that short window is awesome. I'm not saying Undertaker ruined his legacy by that badass era, right? Because there's some cool moments for that too. And it's almost
to have lasting power as the Undertaker did, he understood he read the room. Right. He had to change.
He had the worst gimmick of all time. Like I'll study it, said it till I die. The fucking guy that everyone, how do you kill a dead man? That's the fucking dumbest gimmick ever. You're insulting the fans' intelligence by still claiming that it's legit, and then you're supposed to be believing that this guy's a fucking dead guy wrestling, right? So I like that he became human, and I think it all come together in the end when he became that ministry Undertaker, and then the heaven and hell matches with Shawn, right? That Undertaker, and in the end with the Brock matches and the Roman matches, he became a hybrid of all of it. Like the dead man, the biker man, the fucking rolling man. And I think the Undertaker's legacy is second to none. But I think it would have ruined the Warrior to do that, because it's almost like nobody talks about the Rey Mysterio years without the mask. Everyone fuck Vince because he wanted the mask on Rey. Rey didn't want to wear it. But the best thing Rey ever did was put the mask back on, because it's why he's still around. That is him.
I think you ask a Mexican luchador, they don't like to take the mask off without a reason. That's what it is. Right,
but Rey didn't want to put it back on. And when they signed him, I remember hearing the interview, Rey's like, Vince didn't know who the fuck he was. And he goes, oh no, I want the mask. And he thought, well, people have already seen me without it. Not here. And he ain't been without that motherfucker since. So even when Dom took it off, he still had another one underneath it. But I think this match it was awesome, because say what you will about Vince. The 80s Vince, there's no way RVD's wearing a belt, let alone defending it against The Undertaker. He's not in the conversation. There's no way Jericho's winning the Undisputed title with Austin, Rock, and Angle being the other three guys. There's no way Edge is IC champ and Christian's European champion. I don't think he gets enough credit for this era of new people. And in theory, they're the ones that beat WCW. Because, I mean, Shawn and Triple H and Taker and Brett had to get him there, but it was these young dudes that put him over and sustained it to where WCW went out of business. Mm-hmm. I mean, Austin too, obviously, but you know what I mean.
Well, like I said, I just appreciated that he held his own. It was competitive and all that stuff. I just always, as the ECW mark Reflection Nights, I always said that, because if you just Google TW, Triple H versus Taz, it's not as competitive as, it's just like, it's like that.
Are you talking about the one where he debuted, and that was on Raw? And
no, not a debut. I'm not talking about the debut of Royal Rumble. That's the only time that Taz looked good. It was like these SmackDown matches after the fact with the invasion shit. He just looked like a dweeb. He looked like a Taz with two Z's. It was the worst. But anyway, that's just my diatribe. But let's just get back into this vengeance before I get a little bit flustered and I get a little bit mad, because then I blame Vince McMahon for a lot of shit.
You do know the two Z's was for legal reasons. Same thing with Rhino.
I know the two Z's, but also when you
ever hear that story?
No, I don't need to hear it.
No, you gotta hear it. So they weren't gonna call Rhino.
Oh no, I know the R.
And Paulie's like, fuck you, change the I to a Y. That's Rhino, and they did it.
Yeah, it was smart booking, but he could have been Hippopotamus. We don't know. I'm just saying.
Mantar 2.
He could have been the legit Mantar. But again, that's a what if for another day. What if Rhino was the legit 2000s Mantar? But TW, before we get into the main event, because there's really nothing left, let's put a bow on the other let's put a bow on all the other matches we don't want to talk about. What stands out with the other matches? Did it catch your eye, or
I
it was
think
just more fillers?
The same thing for Dudley's versus Kane and
Big Show.
Like if I'm you and I'm an ECW fan, I'm happy as shit with every ECW guy on this show because the Dudleys won, Chris Jericho won. Who's the other one I just said? Oh, RVD lost, but he lost to a fucking Undertaker in a match that might have stole the show. They did like he got a lot out of the Undertaker. Took some hardcore spots. The fire extinguisher, he come off the top of the balcony on him. He made Undertaker wrestle an ECW match, right?
Yes, he did.
So I like that the Dudley Boys. I hated when guys would wrestle Undertaker and look scared, right? I hated when people would wrestle Kane and look scared. I hated when they wrestled Big Show and nobody got their shit in. I liked it when it was competitive matches. And all three of these matches with ECW guys are competitive, and 2 out of 3. 4 out of 4, or 3 out of 4. Dudley's, Jericho twice. The fucking ECW guy wins. And the only one that lost is RVD, but he lost in good fashion.
Yeah. Well, some people don't say Chris Jericho ECW guy. They say WCW first. But
but where did he fucking start besides?
Oh no, I agree with you. I'm just calling a spade a
fucking
spade.
Lionheart Chris Jericho is ECW from Mexico.
Or from Mexico and Japan. I got that. I'm with you. I'm just saying what other people would say. So let's get into the main events here at Vengeance 2001 TW, and it's the unification of the WWF and WCW titles. The first match, because it went straight. It was like these two, the winners would fight at the end, but you had to do Steve Austin versus Kurt Angle first, and then Rock versus Chris Jericho. You said it in the beginning, people wanted Stone Cold against The Rock again.
They assumed. I don't know if they wanted it. They assumed.
No, I think they want. I mean,
Vince wanted it.
Two things. I would say this. This is hindsight again. You don't know how long that Steve Austin and Rock would be in the WWF. Again, you and I being as fans, not really getting into the Meltzer dirt sheets. If we had the Meltzer dirt sheets, we were like, oh, Rock is going to film a movie soon, and then we knew he's going to lose. Or Austin is going to, have to take some couple of weeks off to mend his neck injuries and his knee injuries and all that stuff. I didn't know. I wasn't trying to be into the Meltzer shit. So, as a fan, you're spoiled. Like, oh, okay, they'll fight at WrestleMania or they'll fight at the Royal Rumble and all that stuff. They will fight each other some way, somehow. But that's what people wanted. I think they wanted that Stone Cold Rock to end the 2001 year, just like WrestleMania. They got the WrestleMania, Stone Cold versus The Rock. What a way to end 2001 with Stone Cold versus The Rock to get into 2002. Now, again, that's just hindsight and all that stuff. So, TW, the floor is yours. Stone Cold against my favorite, Kurt Angle. And for me, let me just say this.
Okay.
I was so gung-ho about Kurt Angle. I was like, people were annoyed with me. I was like, Kurt Angle is the man. Watch him. He's going to be the man. He's going to be
in the conversation for the best of all time, dude.
He is.
I think if he doesn't go to Impact and he stays in WWE, he is the best of all time. Not that what he did there wasn't good, just no one saw it. You know what I mean? It's just unfair. No one saw it. It's funny because I'm watching this.
Save his life, though.
Right. Well, I don't know. It fucking damn near almost caused this, where he did more drugs and more drinking and got in legal troubles. But I remember Angle and Austin. I didn't remember Angle and Rock crossing paths for some reason. So.
They fought in 2001, the pay-per-view before WrestleMania. I think was
right, but I was wrestling, so I wasn't watching it. That's what I'm saying. But it's weird because I thought all four. So Flair's being introduced, like that's heavily in the storyline. One thing that Angle said to him was, I know one thing you've never been. You've been a 14-time world champion, but I know one thing you've never been. Olympic freaking medalist, right? It was awesome. And Flair was awesome. There was a nice little comedy bit there between them. And then Jericho did it. And they never did it with Austin or Rock. So I thought that was kind of cool. Like they foreshadowed one of these guys is going to win. It's you just don't know which one. But I bet you $100 everybody assumed it would be Angle if it wasn't Rock or Austin, right? So I got a question for you. If they say he's only a 14-time world champion there, how the fuck is he a 16-time world champion? Did he win the belt twice more after this?
They were ribbing Flair. was a rib.
Oh, because 2 of them didn't count in WCW or whatever.
Again, it's that Vince McMahon logic bullshit. That's all. But
they call him a 16-time heavyweight champion. Says he has the record.
Yeah,
so they got over it. So, so anyway,
it's either it was a rib or B, Kurt Angle just didn't know the number. It was just
right. He was all perfect, set it up. But
you can say that
Barry, this whole thing is done really well. The only thing I would change is Austin Jericho is a little long, especially for how it starts. But I like that. Really, Jericho talked a lot of shit, but Angle talked the most shit and lost first. Right? That's how you know he gets it. This guy doesn't have any problem, and he got pinned clean. That's the only match that has no chicanery, is he just loses clean to a stunner after giving Austin. They had a really good match. It felt like they held back a little bit, but they set up.
You have to remember, they were trying, because they did this within this match. It was like Kurt Angle was so frustrated that he didn't win with his move.
Right.
Because remember, years later, John Cena had the same kind of finish with The Rock. He was frustrated, and then he kind of like lost focus, and then that's where Steve Austin got the stunner into him, and he lost clean. It's the same thing as The Rock. You lost focus, and he did the rock bottom, and then he wins the match of the once in a lifetime. I just wanted to say that.
But I'm saying it's well done, but it's also setting up Austin's next match, right? Austin's limping because Austin got his ass whooped. It looked like Angle should have won, but lost focus and lost. And Jericho comes out, wrestles The Rock, and this nice little nugget of storytelling. Angle actually lost trying to do the stunner, and then Austin reversed it and then hit his. Then Jericho puts The Rock in the whatever the fuck, but Rock puts him in the sharpshooter, but then he wins, obviously, because Vince's distraction, but nobody really cost The Rock. He distracted him and he gave him a low blow. And then Jericho pins The Rock with the rock bottom. So, I mean, some of this might be to try to make Vince look good over the Montreal Screwdriver. Kind of, look, I really do have guys win with the other guys finish. But I liked it because it made The Rock's, like, if you lose to your own move, it's seen as insulting, right? But the reality is, if someone does your move to you and wins, it puts your move over, right? Like, now every time you hit it,
it's the sincerest form of flattery to lose to your own move that you created.
And then
but there's a caveat. But the caveat was that Vince McMahon caused the distraction for him to lose to his own move. So it kind of saves and protects The Rock.
Right. But he still did not kick out of a rock bottom and a nut shot. Angle didn't kick out of one stunner. So this is refreshing just all the way around, right? And then Austin comes right out, but he's limping because he's still selling the ass whooping from the ankle lock, right? And he gets in there, and he's beating the shit out of Jericho before the bell, and he's like, no, we're not ready yet, which is weird. Normally they just ring the bell. And then Angle comes in and bonks him with a fucking chair, and like, the fuck? And he lays there, but then The Rock gets in and gives Jericho the rock bottom. Now that's how the match starts, and they leave. Then these two wrestle back and forth, and then Booker T comes in. It's weird that Booker T uses the WWE belt to hit Austin, not the WCW belt. But other than
that was at the timekeeper's table. He had to pick the first belt that he was coming out of the guardrail from.
But at the end of the day, you Austin had to give Jericho some offense, because otherwise he just looks like a patsy, right? And I think you told me months ago Jericho didn't hold on to the belt for long, right? He lost it
he lost it at Mania to Triple H.
Oh, he lost it. He had it for 5 months. All right. I was thinking he lost it right away. But yeah, it's so well done. And then Austin has Jericho in the walls of Jericho. He went over too far. He didn't do that one leg one, but he still held him like the lion tamer. And then Jericho tried giving him the stunner, and then wins with the chair or the belt to the back of the head, and just looks happy as shit. McMahon looks happy. It's another thing that Vince never did. The fans went home upset because the bad guy won, and that's how the show ended. And it was just, and they set it up to make, once Austin beat Angle clean, everyone's already certain Jericho has no chance. So they're thinking it's going to be Rock versus Austin again. And instead it's Jericho versus Austin, and Jericho wins.
here is my maybe nitpicking, and maybe you should convince me why I'm wrong. But all the match between Austin and Angle should have happened second because of everything you said. Because Angle worked he worked the leg, he worked the ankle, all that stuff. The flip side to me, TW, is Jericho is coming in is the underdog in the third match because Austin's coming in being like the vulture and the rattlesnake and all that stuff. Right. He's living the gimmick. If it was reversed where Austin had to overcome the odds and then Jericho is coming in, all that stuff, and then whatever happens.
Here's why that's not work.
Why does it work?
Everything is made to look like Jericho has no chance of winning, and then he does.
Was it more to give respect to Jericho for the legitimacy?
No, it was because no one saw it coming. If Jericho comes out rested and fights Austin, who just got hurt in Angle's match, and Austin loses, it just looks like, everyone, of course he lost. He had the deck stack against him. Austin would have to win to make that the point, right? Yeah. He overcame everything. But Jericho's the one no one thought was winning the match with The Rock, let alone being the guy to win the whole thing. And it looked like Jericho had no chance. He just got
if it was the betting line, Austin would be the favorite, Rock would be 2, Kurt Angle would be 3, and Jericho would be 4. I get you.
Jericho would be 5th because they would think McMahon would put himself in there and put the belt on Jay Leno instead. But
what it is.
But no, it was everything's done beautifully because everybody looks good at the end. Angle re-enters the fray by hitting Austin with the chair, so he's back into the feud and he lost clean. And then The Rock's like, oh yeah, fuck that, and he got in there and then through Jericho, he got a little vengeance in there, vengeance, pun intended, and then chased Angle out of there. So that he looks good leaving, and then The Rock, Austin whoops Jericho's ass, but they have a little friendly, competitive, not friendly, but a competitive back and forth with each other, and then Booker T comes in to steal the win for him. I thought that was starting the insurrection. I didn't know that was after.
Logistically, Booker T, because of the win for all and all that stuff at Survivor Series, Booker T was unemployed.
Yeah.
And he's not even supposed to be there.
Wasn't RVD on that team? So how's RVD there? How's Austin there?
The loophole was that RVD was the hardcore champion coming into Survivor Series. So
all the champions got to stay.
Yeah, the champions were protected. So it is what it is.
What was Big Show? Big Show turned on him, right?
No, Big Show was Team WWF.
Oh, I thought he was Invasion. Yeah. All right, but I think it was well done. I think it was worth watching. I think the whole show was better than anything I expected. Again, back then the women and both Jackie was dressed all right, but Trish, man, 2005 when I saw her in person, I thought hands down she was the most hottest, beautiful chick I've ever seen in my life. And I just watched her on here and went, I don't know that I think that anymore. And the funny thing is when she does the stuff nowadays, I think she looks old. But then when I watch this, I think she looks better now than she did then. Maybe.
Well, 2001 Trish was her rookie year.
Right. She looked like a little young kid.
The 2005 or 2006 Trish was her refined prime. She's in the business. She's understanding the cadences.
People call her the best ever, man. I don't know if that's still the case. They might be throwing that Becky's way, I guess, but I don't. I still just think Trish is the reason all this other stuff is happening. She's the one that burned that door down with Lita and Jackie and Ivory and Victoria and Mickey James. They, you got to have a dance partner. You ain't doing it by yourself. But I think, and Tori Wilson tried as she might. Stacy Keibler tried as she might. But I like this. I did, and I was happy to see that there was 8 years of Vengeance. I think they're bringing it back for NXT. I think is that what?
I think so.
I think December is Vengeance for NXT.
No, December is Hardline.
Oh, okay. And do they still do day one?
I don't know.
For not NXT, WWE.
Well, that was before the TKO thing. So after TKO, we don't know what they're going to do. It's up to Triple H if he wants to. I don't think Triple H really.
Triple H is getting fired in 2025. I think Russo's smoking them bobos because I think everybody knows who the golden goose is. If it ain't Triple H, it's Shawn.
Unless Triple H is in the Diddy tapes, he's not going nowhere. So it is what it is.
Fucking Diddy tapes.
We don't know.
Triple H is all business. Hey man, you know what I saw today?
What?
Put Batista on blast because I keep seeing people saying this. Like they got him. He got them AIDS. He's skinny, but he's wearing like 8 rings of pearls. And then they showed all these different celebrities wearing pearls.
So
Justin Timberlake, Ashton Kutcher, that dude you like, Old Town Road, whatever that guy's name is.
Is it the Illuminati pearls?
No, I guess it's like marking them, like they taking the ass. But do you know what the conspiracy theory is of the Diddy tapes and the Epstein Island? Do you know what the conspiracy theory is?
What is it?
That it is deep state government that let it all happen so that they could get other government officials blackmail stuff. Like that's why it's all recorded. That's why nobody ever really gets in trouble. That's why they don't release the tapes, because if they do, you're exposing a whole lot of fucking corruption in politics, because it ain't gonna be just actors and singers.
And you're messing with the economy. And that being said, we close on this episode 190, 10 episodes away from the elusive 200. I'm gonna milk this. I don't think we're gonna hit 200 until 2026 if we're still doing it that long. But anyway, neither here nor
Especially
there.
if we keep waiting on Donnie the Dragon, or Don the Destruction to catch up.
That's up to you, TW. Slide into the DM saying we're close. We're getting close. But anyway, we close on this episode, and what we're gonna do next time, I don't know. I'll keep you on your toes. We might do another. No, we ain't doing episodic. We might do it. What if? We might do a spotlight. We're not going to the movies just yet, so it's either gonna be a spotlight or what if. So with that being said, TW, give out those socials so we can get out of here.
Alrighty, the Pro Wrestling Coalition Network sponsors us on probation at PWC Network at Podbean.com. You can also find Hameen Media Group at Podbean.com, as well as ChannelAttitude.com. We are on X at PW Reflection. I brought up Travis a few times. He's not returning mine and Matt's text, but I'm still going to give out his handle. It's at Nuts and Volts PW, and that Volts is VOELTZ. You can check out Big Ray on all the social media platforms at Big Ray Hernandez, including every Wednesday live on the Next Level podcast covering NXT. You can follow me on Instagram and X at TommyWonder19 or at the Tommy Wonder on X and TikTok, Snapchat #Wonder, Facebook.com/Tommy Wonder, and also that Threads nonsense is at TommyWonder19. Big Vito in the Well can be found at Big Vito Brand on TikTok, and you can catch the early release of this video. It is the video, right? Big Ray's X.
And you can find me on my Xer at PWSOPRF. That's PWSOProf. Follow my brothers in arms, A-Track Brown, the dirtiest of the city, the king of the reactions at the #8 TRAC Brown, and of course Billy Ray Valentine at Obi-Wan. You know me. And again, I'll keep you on your toes. Maybe a what if, maybe a spotlight, but I'll let you know. And with that being said, I'm the professor. That's Mr. Wonderful, Dum Dum Dewey Song, the Iron Stomach One, Dr. Freaking Stein, and the undisputed, undeniable Detroit Rock City Universal Heavyweight Champion of the World, the Tommy Wonder saying goodnight, and we'll see you next time here at the PWR Podcast at the Hameen Media Group at Podbean.com. Peace. And you're holding up your dolls.
I don't have no dolls, motherfucker. Action figures.
You didn't hold them up when we were talking about the main event, and now you hold them up now. Oh,
I'm gonna do something cool, and you're gonna appreciate it. Involves the greatest world television champion of all time, Tully Blanchard.
Well, too bad. See you next time. We'll see you next time.